What's up guys, it's Swinkly. If you're new here, I've been working on making a fast-paced platformer for around 9 months now. With almost no prior game dev experience, it's been a fantastic journey of learning how to code, learning how to handle feedback, and learning to navigate burnout. And for a beginner dev, I thought I was doing pretty well at making a fun and interesting game. But then something terrible happened. I bought Balatro. For anyone who somehow doesn't know what Balatro is by this point, it's a card game made by a solo indie dev that allows you to score ridiculous amounts of points by using mechanics like jokers and tarot cards, which enhance your cards and hands in various ways. And incidentally, it's the most addictive game in existence. No joke, I played around 30 hours of Balatro in the first 2 days after purchasing it. At some point, when I finally pried myself away from Balatro to get back to work on my own game, I came to a disappointing realization. My game sucks. I'm perfectly aware that the developer of Balatro has years of experience on me, and that it wasn't remotely their first foray into game development. But after playing a game for numerous hours that was filled with pure, unadulterated fun, it became clear to me that my game just wasn't. It had none of the variety, none of the excitement, none of the juice that Balatro did, and I began to wonder if that meant nobody would enjoy it. However, I've come to realize that epiphanies like this are not reasons to drop a project, but instead chances to critically evaluate it and make it better. So I set off on answering the question, how can I make my game more fun? Before answering this question, however, I had another big roadblock to overcome. Around 2 months ago, the artist I had been working with since September stopped responding to me completely. I still have absolutely no idea what happened to them, or why they stopped responding, but I want to make it clear I have no hard feelings toward them, and I'm going to go ahead and assume it's because they have something much more important going on. That said, I couldn't leave the project at a standstill, so I had to do something about the art. Searching for another artist to work with was definitely an option on the table, but ultimately I decided I wanted to try something a little more audacious. So, despite having very little experience with pixel art, I decided I was going to try remaking all the game's environmental assets myself. This was, and is, a bit of a monumental task for a beginner, but as soon as I sat down and started drawing, the inspiration started flowing. I quickly created this parallax background for Somber Sepulchre, which you'll notice looks a lot different and has a very different vibe compared to the previous version. I think that's one of the best things about this decision. Making my own assets frees me up to go wherever my inspiration takes me, and nothing is lost in translation. After spending some time making a basic tile set, using the old Cemetary tiles from the game's very first iteration as a reference, I've got something that, while not terribly polished, looks and feels exciting and mysterious. I particularly like how the game's parallax background looks in motion. It ended up working a lot better than I initially expected. It is a bit daunting to think about doing this for each of the game's remaining areas, but I'm sure that with some patience and effort, I can make it happen. However, I'm still unsure what to do about the characters' animations. If making environmental assets is difficult for a beginner, animating a character is much harder, and I'm not 100% sure that I'd be able to come up with something I felt was good enough for the game. This is an area where I might still need to enlist help before the game's final release. On that note, while I'm still undecided as to whether I will bring in another artist to help with this project, if you have a vested interest in the game and experience with character animations, you can feel free to email me. However, I would ask that you include a link to a few portfolio pieces in your initial message to avoid unnecessary back and forth. Anyway, back to the bigger question at hand. Even with brand new visuals, Lost Resolve simply wasn't fun enough. So how could I make it fun? One of the first things I thought about was the exploration factor. Lost Resolve's levels already featured branching paths and collectible keys, but apart from locking away certain pieces of progression, there was almost no incentive to explore the levels and collect the keys. And beyond the mostly pointless keys, there were no other collectibles to be found. Naturally, something had to be done about this. The first thing I did was create a system of unlockable notes. Currently, these take the form of tattered journals, poetic fragments, and lost verses. Each one will give a little bit of insight into the game's story, and they'll be strewn about the hub world and the game's various levels. The notes I've added so far definitely make the story feel richer, and ultimately I plan to have several of these in each area for the player to find. This was definitely a step in the right direction to making the game more fun to explore, but it was still lacking in variety. So the next, and perhaps the biggest addition to the game so far, would be unlockable abilities called memories. If you complete a level with all 3 keys, you'll unlock the level's corresponding memory, which enhances your gameplay in a unique way. For example, collecting all 3 keys in Somber Sepulchre 1 unlocks Salvation, which prevents the player from losing keys upon death. You can equip up to 3 memories at a time, and some of the memories will work synergistically to create a build. So far, my favorite of these builds is the Rabbit, which allows you to reach ridiculous speeds by bunny hopping. You can also make builds that enhance certain abilities, like this one that gives you infinite wall jumps, makes wall jumps send you higher and farther, and slightly reduces gravity. It's my goal that players will enjoy discovering which builds work best for certain levels, and that having the ideal build will make S ranks that may have seemed impossible totally attainable. There's definitely a lot of potential with these new abilities and mechanics, and I'll probably be revisiting my level designs to create additional paths and shortcuts for various builds. I'll probably also create icons for each ability to make them look nicer, and to be more readily identifiable at a glance. I think it's safe to say that with the addition of these new features, and with more brand new visuals on the way, Lost Resolve is poised to be a much more exciting experience than it was before. It probably still won't be remotely as fun or addicting as Balatro, but hey, maybe that's okay. After all, you can't improve upon perfection. Anyway, there's still a lot of work to do before Next Fest, and I hope to have a new trailer, screenshots, and Steam assets reflecting the most current visuals before that time. So wish me luck, and if this game has caught your interest at all, feel free to add it to your wishlist on Steam. It's been a crazy journey so far, and there have been more than a few setbacks, but the finish line is now closer than it's ever been. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.